Time now to get the latest business news with Karis Garland from our business desk. Karis, good to see you. Now, we've been covering the Mexican elections here. A lot of challenges await the incoming president, economic ones too.
Of course. So after years of austerity, the outgoing president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, ramped up spending on social programs and infrastructure projects. And in this year's budget, Mexico was left with the largest public deficit since the 1980s. Well, now Claudia Sheinbaum, though, has pledged to follow her predecessor's vision, given his high approval rating. And another urgent issue awaits her, wrestling what to do with Pemex, the world's most indebted oil company that's become a drag on public finances. Charlotte Hughes takes a closer look.
Cheers and celebrations as Claudia Sheinbaum secured a landslide victory in Mexico's presidential elections. But the former mayor of Mexico has a steep hill to climb as she inherits the country's largest fiscal deficit in a quarter of a century, left by the government of López Obrador. Sheinbaum has previously said she does not think tax hikes are needed, and has pledged to expand social programs. On Monday, she vowed to protect those who are economically vulnerable.
As the humanist principle of our movement says, for the good of all, the poor come first. We will maintain a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, and guarantee all of President López Obrador's welfare programs.
After Obrador boosted social programs and infrastructure projects, the country's fiscal deficit stands at almost 6% of GDP. Therefore, cuts equivalent to around 3% of GDP or new revenue are needed to meet next year's deficit target. A top priority is dealing with Pemex, the state oil company with some $100 billion of debt, with experts agreeing that it must drastically change its business plan. Sheinbaum is also facing rising pension costs that are taking up 20% of the budget. Despite interest from companies such as Tesla looking to diversify supply chains away from China, growth per capita has plateaued for the past 6 years. To remedy that, Sheinbaum will need to improve infrastructure and address a lack of clean energy and water.
Now, here in France, the government is seeking to defend its economic stability after ratings agency Standard & Poor's downgraded the country's credit score.
Yeah, its economic credibility really the question in Parliament this Monday. That's as President Emmanuel Macron's party faces these no-confidence votes, the opposition seizing on last week's downgrade of France's credit rating by S&P. The American agency made the decision to go from AA to AA- after France's public deficit for 2023 came in at 5.5% of GDP. That was instead of 4.9% as predicted. S&P, though, doesn't expect the deficit to fall below 3% by the end of Macron's 5-year term, which is what the government claims. That projection was in yellow on that graph there. In blue was the agency's prediction, where public deficit is still at 3.5% of GDP in 2027. Here's Charlotte Hughes.
A year and a half after its initial warning following the COVID-19 crisis, American ratings agency Standard & Poor's has downgraded France's credit score after higher than expected deficits. Following the announcement, France's finance minister defended the government's spending record and pledged to get public finances back on track.
You know, we have committed to saving 20 billion euros on government spending by 2024, and you've seen that we've started to take exceptional protective measures against inflation and COVID. We're going to continue on exactly the same path.
The government is facing pressure to detail another 20 billion euros worth of savings for next year. Le Maire has promised that the decision would not change the lives of those in France, which has a high debt-to-GDP ratio in comparison to other European countries. Although lower than that of Greece and Italy, France's public debt as a percentage of GDP last year is higher than that of Germany and Bulgaria, and more than 5 times that of Estonia's. Although S&P did not change its stable outlook for France, it has said that political fragmentation would make it hard for the government to put in place reforms needed to balance public finances. Its decision has prompted 2 votes of no confidence in the government from opposition parties.
And Karis, how have the markets started the week?
Well, we're going to start in India, where stock gauges have hit intraday record highs. The Nifty 50 closing 3.25% higher, while the BSE reached a lifetime peak and closed 3.4% higher. This comes after local exit polls over the weekend projected Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his BJP-led alliance were on track for a third consecutive term in power. If correct, it could mean a priority for infrastructure development, with shares of Adani Group companies raising too. Meanwhile, in Europe, markets have begun the week on the front foot, with investors confident the European Central Bank will lower its benchmark deposit rate by 0.25 percentage point when policymakers meet Thursday. The FTSE in London up 0.1%, the Paris CAC 40 trading 0.4% higher, and the Frankfurt DAX gaining 0.8% there.
And finally, you're going to end with bad news for travelers. Airfares are expected to continue to rise even further.
So the International Air Transport Association said it expected the global industry to generate $30.5 billion in profit this year, higher than an upwardly revised $27.4 billion in 2023. This as passenger yields, or the average amount paid by a passenger to fly 1 mile, are expected to strengthen by 3.2% compared to last year. But the airline industry did warn that its ability to serve a strong rebound in travel demand is being hampered by disruption to global supply chains, including deliveries of its own fleets. Delano.
Not good news for us.
Unfortunately not.
Karis, thank you very much for that. Karis Garland there with the business news.